Welcome to the Rich in Purpose Transform Childhood Trauma Summit. Today I have the honor of welcoming Cliona O'Hara. She is a coach, mentor, and guiding voice at the Napoleon Hill Institute. Cliona has a remarkable gift for helping people reconnect with their inner power, rewrite old identities, and step into a life shaped by purpose rather than pain. Cliona, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, I'm so honored and I'm so grateful, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. If anybody looks at you today, they would say, "What a successful woman." But if they came if if they were to look at you in your younger years, they would think, "Oh, she had a different life." Tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you came to America.
Yes, Jamie. So my life didn't start out obviously on a bed of roses, shall we say. I was born in Northern Ireland and I'm an immigrant woman and I moved to the United States of America. Before I moved to America, it was always my dream to have the American dream. And I was living in Northern Ireland. I grew up in poverty. I grew up with my grandmother, Peggy, and my grandmother raised me and my sisters, my two sisters, in a small council house. You would call it a council house. We call it government living over here. And we only had one bedroom that me, my grandmother, and my two sisters shared, along with a dog. And so it was a tiny council estate bungalow property. We didn't have a dining room. All we had was one bedroom, one bathroom, one tiny kitchen, and a living room. That was how we grew up, and it was very poor living situation. My parents had left. My grandmother raised us, so there was a lot of dysfunction in my life. I had a lot of trauma as well because I had suffered from great loss, losing both of my parents, leaving me as a child. My mother left to America, my father left to a different part of Europe. So I did suffer a lot of loss, and it was a traumatic upbringing for me. My grandmother raised me. She did the best she could, but she was very poor. She cleaned toilets for a living, Jamie. So she was paid, as you can imagine, cleaning toilets for the local government. And she was paid very little, but she did the best she could. But I definitely I think it's so important, this summit, because of childhood trauma shaped me. And obviously I had a transformation in my life, but that's where I came from. I suffered abandonment of parents. So I had a lot of trauma around being abandoned as a child. I've had to do a lot of work on healing that. And, obviously coming to America at the age of 18, I always had that dream. I brought the trauma with me, and I brought the abandonment issues with me as an 18-year-old young woman moving to New York City. So you can imagine that for the first 7 years living in America was not easy. I was completely programmed. I was unhealed. I had very low self-esteem. And so that's a little bit about my background and where I came from.
Well, Cleona, I mean, it's a background that a lot of us went through, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could say not which one is worse. They're not really worse or better. They're just different, right? So it's just a different environment. But Cleona, before I get off to the questions, I heard a story that you used to sit in a closet and draw about things that you wanted to do. Can you tell us a little bit about that before I get into the questions?
Yeah, I love that you broke that you actually found out about it. So as you know, as a child that suffered trauma and loss, I used to spend a lot of time alone and play with my imagination. And I found a closet in the room that used to be my hiding place where I would go when I was in stress or I was sad. And I would climb up into the closet. There was a shelf at the top of the closet. And I would sit up there with my crayons, markers, whatever I had. And I would draw pictures on the wall. So my grandmother couldn't see because it was up high, or I would have got in trouble. But I would draw pictures all the way at the top of the closet. And I would draw pictures of America. I would draw pictures of me living in a beautiful home in America. And it was really essentially, Jamie, I was creating a vision board and I didn't know what I was. And I even remember now, it's funny, there was a little dog in the picture. And now Jamie, I have a beautiful dog called Caramel that she's the love of my life.
I see her on your stories and stuff on Facebook sometimes. So yeah, I know she's a big part of your life.
Yes, she
But
is.
the first thing I want to bring up is about your kids. I know that making memories with your kids is very important to you. So and sometimes and you was one of them. We don't have a lot of good memories growing up. So how did you go about creating memories that you feel that are good with your children now and making them memorable?
Do you mean creating good memories for them now?
Well, and you, because so many times, like for me, I can't ever remember having a vacation when I was growing.
Mm, mm.
And today, I still don't take a lot of vacation. Right? I get caught up in what I'm doing. So sometimes creating memories don't come easy for me, but I know that that's something you really concentrate on today. So
Mm.
how do you do that and make them good memories for you and for your kids?
Yeah, so just like you, we didn't have a lot of vacations growing up, and we didn't get to go out to like restaurants or anything like that. Couldn't afford it. And so what I do now, I make it a priority to create memories with my children. I take them on vacation twice a year. I let them pick where we're going. I also work from, I have an office here in New York, but I also work from home most of the time. And I do that on purpose, Jamie, because I set a standard in my life that I will be there for my children because of memories when I was a little girl, getting off the school bus or coming back from a school trip and nobody being there for me. And I remember feeling so lonely and unloved. I said, I will make sure that I will always be there for my children when they get off the bus. So this is how I create memories. It's not just the fancy restaurants or the fancy vacations that we get to go on. For me, what stood out in my life that I missed, I'm making sure I'm giving to my children now. I never take a call after 3 p.m. unless it's in the evening and my children aren't there, because I will always be there for my children at 3 o'clock after the bus arrives. These are ways that I create memories. They see my face. I put them on the bus going to school. I wave at them. These are the memories that I'm encapsulating and capturing in their mind that I want them to have. Little things like that, Jamie. Going to the grocery store, being a team, saying, okay, kids, what do you want? And you know what I love too? I get them to write the shopping list with their little pencil. And I say, okay, now give it to Gracie, give it to James, and everybody gets to write on the list. And then we go around the grocery store, and we make sure everybody's items on the list, as long as they're approved. They get to pick what they wanted. So these are little ways where I create memories with my children that I think they will remember for the rest of their life.
Well, I mean, that is so great that you do that. But so many times we talked a lot on the summit about intergenerational trauma. We always say, hey, I'm not going to grow up to be like my dad or my mom, but then who do we grow up to be like? Our parents, because in the trauma, we learn to be safe around that environment. So tell me a little bit, Cliona, how did you you have broken the intergenerational trauma gap so well. How did that come about into you that you said, I'm just going to do it?
Yes, it was. I always say it was my turning point, Jamie, and I think we all have a turning point when we finally have a transformation. I was in my 20s, and of course, I was in New York, and I ended up in a very abusive relationship, on and off for 7 years. And when I say abuse, I mean extreme abuse, where I almost lost my life. And the final turning point was when I was 27 years old and I was getting beat up by this man and he fell asleep. I prayed. And when he fell asleep, I ran for my life. That was my turning point. I ran for my life and that was it. I said, enough is enough. And I got to my knees and I prayed. I said, God, there has to be more to life than this. And that's when Jamie, a few months later, I attracted an invitation to go out to dinner with friends in New York. I had no money. I was broken. I was broke. And I got invited to this dinner. I was miserable. And I still went to the dinner. And after the dinner, I went to the restroom and outside, somebody left the movie The Secret on a DVD disc outside the bathroom stall. And I looked down, it was a DVD, said Secret. And I thought, oh my God, that's for me. And I took that movie, I watched it over and over and over. And that's what introduced me to Bob Proctor, to Think and Grow Rich. That was the turning point in my life. It was when I was at my lowest, I was at my breaking point, and I said, enough is enough. And I attracted that movie, and everything has changed.
Well, the one thing, God is always in control. And the thing that gets me with that story is it's outside a bathroom. You picked it up because people have the choice, right? 100 people could walk by that movie and just step over it and not get the opportunity that you got, right? But you picked it up, you watched it, and now look where you are.
Yeah.
So I just tell people, I mean, you never know where God is going to be. Just if something unusual is happening for you, go ahead and do it because it might be from God.
Yes, exactly. And it said secret. And I thought, well, it must be a secret. I don't know what it is.
But I'm gonna hear it, right? I'm gonna listen for it.
Do you know what's amazing, Jamie? Like when I think about it, like in that movie, you had Bob Proctor, you had Joe Vitale, and these are all the people I ended up working with. Like,
Yeah.
Think about that. How amazing is that?
Yeah.
God is incredible.
Yeah, and you just, I mean, I'm not going to tell you my little story that's happened recently, but it's so amazing because it's a miracle. The
Yeah.
only way that you can really say it is that if God wasn't in it, then everything couldn't have happened the way that it happened.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Cleona, now that you're CEO of the Napoleon Hill Institute, and you've been there for 3 years, and in leaderships, you can be in constant motion all the time. And many of us grew up always, when you're going through trauma a lot, you're pushed by your family, or you try to slow down and be safe, right, in your environment. But sometimes we feel guilty when we start to rest. How do you create the memories for your kids and you and and not feel that like guilt and shame that you're not doing something?
Yeah, it's a good question. In the beginning, when I started in my coaching business, I used to feel guilt and shame, but I realize that life will mold itself. Our life will mold itself around our standards. And our standards come from our values and our non-negotiables. And I believe we create our own life, our own reality through our thinking and our attitude and our behavior. And so I have set standards in my life that my children are a priority. My wellness is a priority, and life will mold itself to those standards and those values. And that I do not feel guilty because these are non-negotiable activities that are a priority for me. For example, being with my children, priority. Everybody will have to wait in the back of the line. Guess what? Life has molded itself to allow me to do that. Nobody has complained yet. Nothing bad has happened yet. So I'm creating my calendar life by design. So there is no guilt because I'm the creator of my calendar. I'm the creator of how I want to mold my life. The world will adapt to what I the world will adapt to what I find acceptable.
Yeah, well, I kind of want you to expound on that a little bit because so many times, and this really happens, is that you don't people come out and they don't read anything or they don't watch The Secret and they don't learn anything new. So what happens is they feel guilty and then they just keep life is a circle for them. What just made you, I guess, Cleona, because once you watched The Secret, right? That wasn't the only book you read. You continued that life of transformation by growing. How do you feel that that's just kind of gotten instilled in you after that one experience?
Yes. So obviously my standards and my values came from how I program my subconscious mind. And I do it every single day. And I study every single day, Jamie. Think and Grow Rich is like my second Bible. I became a coach. I study material every day, just like you do. And so I went on a path of self-development and I still am. I will always be growing. I will always be doing repetition of study. I will always be studying the principles. I will always be in a mastermind group and around people like you that are like-minded, that have positive attitude. And so I also do auto suggestion, which is in the book, Think and Grow Rich. I follow those principles to a T every single day. So I've rewired my belief systems, which has created more confidence, a higher self-image. So that's how I don't feel guilty and I design my own life. But if somebody's watching this and they say, well, how do I get out of it? They need to talk to you, Jamie, you're a certified coach. You know how this works. I needed a coach. I had to get a mentor. I had to get into a program and I still am every day. So auto suggestion, repetition of study. I also do hypnosis and I got a coach. So if somebody feels guilty, they should get a coach and do the same thing and speak to you.
Well, I think it's sometimes it's by accident. Like I stumbled into Barnes and Noble, never really read anything except for what the teachers made me read in school. But I picked up See You at the Top and I read it and I didn't know that there was a life like that available to me. So then I became very passionate about how do I get that life? And through time, now I I read Napoleon Hill. I read the Think and Grow Rich every morning. Bob Proctor says he read it every day. Now I have other books I read, but I start off with that for 10 minutes every day because it grows you and grows you. And, before you wake up, before I get out of bed, I do 10 minutes of auto suggestion about the thing that I want. So it is true, Cleona, that take a step, right? It may not be your first step may not be hiring a coach. It will be after that. And sometimes I think that, you have to be careful when you have childhood trauma because I hired coaches, but sometimes they didn't have the capabilities of having our emotional stability in play. And I would do 3 or 4 weeks of it and I'm like, I would get really frustrated because they were telling me to do things that I wasn't really emotionally stable for. And that's why with the Rich in Purpose, our whole practice is on the Napoleon Hill principles, but we do it with a lens for trauma.
I love that. Yeah.
We soften it a little bit so that people
therapeutic coaching. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
They can absorb it. But the one thing that I realized, and I'm going to give a little plug for the Napoleon Hill Institute as well, is that, well, I started with the Napoleon Hill Institute, and now in a year, I've accomplished more than I've accomplished in the rest of my life.
Right.
But it was the fact that I just had to, you have to take that first step. And so I just encourage people to take the first step, read a book, something to break the pattern that you're in now. And like you, like me, and like many other people, you can all of a sudden find that your life is so much different than it was when you were growing up.
Yes, I agree, Jamie. Yeah, and it's so beautiful and incredible what you're doing. And you're going to help so many people all over the world that need this. Yeah.
You know, you get the little saying, it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And
For
of course, when you're going through it, you're like, this can't be happening for me. But then all of a sudden your life turns, and you know, the people that and the coaches and people that I've interviewed for the summit, we've all experienced it. You've experienced it. And what happens is we just want nobody else to have to go through it. So we figure out a way to help people. And then our lives become, now we can say, oh, that happened for me, not to me.
That's right. We passed the torch.
That's
We
right.
turned our pain into purpose. That's right. Yes.
And you know, Cliona, many of our audiences are entrepreneurs who feel overwhelmed because they're still operating from old patterns. What's one simple shift in thinking that can help someone move from overwhelm into feeling like change is possible?
I believe it's, you could say one simple shift, but really it's your morning routine. It's your morning routine. How you start the day is how you'll win the day. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're struggling and you're burnt out and overwhelmed, I guarantee you probably don't have a good morning routine. And you're rolling into the day and allowing everything in the day to affect how you feel. But if you start your morning, the first hour of your morning is where you put your armor on. I always say put your armor of God on. And you do it in the morning before everybody gets up. We have self-discipline camp, Jamie knows, and he hosts one of the calls 5:30 in the morning. We're writing out our goal, we're meditating, and we're studying. We're getting on a very high frequency. And when you do that for 30 days or more, you will notice that overwhelm is gone. Because your attitude has changed, your frequency has changed, your thinking has changed, and your day will change. So I would say the simple shift is your morning routine. Talk to Jamie and get a very powerful, beautiful morning routine before you start your day.
And again, Cleona, sometimes I think that it's just you have to take those little things. Because when I was had a bad routine, Brian Tracy said if you want to double your income, I suggest that you get up 30 minutes early and read something positive, and that will help you double your income. And then all of a sudden, now I read for a couple hours in the morning. My routine is just totally all changed, and I get up, and now I really kind of accomplish a lot of things in my life that I'd never really dreamed that I would. And the one thing, Cleona, is that in the Think and Grow Rich, it's find your burning desire, right, to keep going, and to and I know that once you find your burning desire, your life changes. Like once this uh, rich and purpose came to my mind, nothing could stop me really from doing it. How do people know, Cleona, that you can really find your burning desire and keep going?
Can you pause right there, Jamie? Just hit pause.
Yep. Cleona, I know that our morning routine is important, but so many times we as people who have had childhood trauma, right, we have a hard time loving ourselves. So if you do these routines and you think, oh, I'm going to become this person, but then you don't think you deserve it, how do you get people to know that, to really kind of love themselves and do that consistent morning routines and start living the life that they want?
So at the beginning of my journey, I didn't have the confidence or the willpower to continue on as I was building these routines and these habits. And so what I find works until you have the willpower and the habit and the routine programmed, you have to make your why bigger than your excuses. And what do I mean by that? I had to decide, why am I going after this goal?
Yeah.
It's not to get more money. Yes, of course, we all should have plenty of money and live a great life. But it's my why. My why is driving me. My why gets me up in the morning when I don't want to get up. My why for my children. My why for my mission for women. I have a mission to help single moms who are abused, right? I have a mission to help single moms that need help. I have my own 3 children that I want to provide a great life for. This is my why. So at the beginning of your journey, you need to get crystal clear what is your why, and that you have to become one with your why. You have to visit your why every morning. When you want to give up, when you want to quit, when you don't believe this is working, you have to become married to your why. I hope that makes sense to you, Jamie.
It does, Cleona, because your why is everything, right? Because if you don't have a why, when things get a little bit rough, you think, "Oh well, I wasn't supposed to do this," and a lot of times your friends will say, "You're right, right? We told you you shouldn't have been doing that, and now here it became true." So the last question I want to get with Cleona is the importance of the mastermind. The mastermind is what will change your life, I really believe, because you get around people who are like you, and they want to really kind of grow. So tell us a little bit about how people get into a mastermind, and who are the people that we need to have in our mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another accountability insurance policy. As you go towards your goals, you want to establish a mastermind of 12 people or less. You can ask to join a mastermind that's existing, or you can create your own. But you should be looking for people that you're in harmony with, people that have a goal or a purpose that's in harmony with yours, your definite major purpose, and you're in harmony with theirs. You should be also thinking about, when you form a mastermind, not what are you going to get, but what are you going to give to the mastermind. You should be finding people who have similar values as you do, and how you can help each other. And it becomes, Jamie, as you know, a mastermind becomes like a second family. It's not just a get together and study. No, you become like, it's almost like a second family in business and in your life. Yeah.
Well, that is true. I mean, I was a member of the Napoleon Hill Institute for about 5 months before I got my mastermind, and in the next 4 months, the production that I've received in my life have just really been more than like I said, it's been a miracle. So, well, Cleona, I do want to thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing, and I want to let people know that the Napoleon Hill principles, the principles mean they always work. So learn the Napoleon Hill principles. We help with that in the Rich and Purpose, but sometimes you can just growing in. They have, at Napoleon Hill Institute, you have a study and grow rich. You have the self discipline clap in the mornings, and I really feel that if people say, "I want to take some kind of step," what I did was I took the confidence class. And I'm going to recommend that for people. If you're lacking a little bit of confidence, maybe our Rich and Purpose method is a year long. Maybe you're not really ready for that. But check in on the confidence class that the Napoleon Hill has, and maybe that can be your first step. And then, like me, that's the first step to living the life that you dream.
I love that. I love that. Jamie, get in touch with Jamie because he has access to everything. And, like you said, once you have a miracle in your life, coming from trauma and pain and suffering to having the most beautiful life, and no matter what happens, adversity strikes, you can handle it. Now you don't fall apart. You don't get triggered as much as you used to. And so this material has completely changed my life. It's changed your life, Jamie. And it's been an honor to be part of this summit. And if I can help in any way, I will be there. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you so much, Cliona. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.